Welcome along to what I hope and trust will be one of the more illuminating and entertaining trader chats, because this weekend was off the charts in terms of things happening. The Super Bowl, big gamble on was it the winner, was it the loser on Sunday night. Then we had Willie Mullins winning 9 races over the Dublin Racing Festival. Lots of favourites coming in, but mainly we're going to talk about these 3 completely nondescript races, 3 horses that apparently had nothing in common and nearly pulling off one of the biggest gambles in British and Irish history. Flynn, Goward, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Like you just said, I thought we were going to be sitting here on a Monday talking about the Dublin Racing Festival, going in depth about the Super Bowl. We will obviously touch on those, but the weekend was all about the gamble at Musselburgh and over at Southwell. In terms of what we kind of saw of it, it was the obvious 3 horses were 125 Musselburgh far away was 22-1 when we opened up. 235 Southwell blowing Dixie was 12-1. And then 425 Musselburgh Gallagher's Cross was 33-1. I was actually working Saturday night. I was just
now. This is what interests me. You were telling me this before we came on air. You're a man who was occasionally working the Saturday night shift, what might be deemed something of a graveyard shift, but it was actually one of the liveliest shifts you'll probably ever have.
It was indeed. I was about to tuck into a takeaway pizza. Myself and my flatmate were working over here, and when we started to see these bets coming through, and they were Trixie's patents for these horses. And it became very clear very quickly that they weren't picked out of the paper. When you see Trixie's coming through with horses at prices 22-1, 12 and 33-1, I mean, they aren't just picked out. We saw a lot of new accounts opening, trying to bet these horses, and we managed to dodge it fairly quickly.
What did you do?
So we actually went SP on the races. So once we see 2, 3, 4 of these same type of bets come through from new accounts opening up, we have seen this a few times before, but I've never seen it with loads of new accounts. A lot of them kind of based in Ireland, so I would imagine the gamble was kind of coming from over that side. And we obviously know with the kind of trainers that were kind of involved with it as well. So we went SP on the races. The first couple of bets got the juicy prices, albeit not for kind of huge amounts at overnight prices. And then we went SP, but we still saw people coming on and trying to bet them at SP as well. So it was almost like they've been told to bet these at all costs.
And can I ask? Yeah, so can you explain to viewers here what the difference is in terms of Star Sports and maybe one of the other bookmakers, one of the high street firms? Because one of the reasons I love Star Sports is that there is a human touch. You literally are talking to a trader within maybe 10 seconds of trying to place a bet or whatever, and that human touch was kind of the human intervention that was needed here, basically, to save the bookmaker. Because I was working this out at the early prices, roughly 100 quid Trixie would have brought you in just shy of £1 million. 100 quid Trixie at the early prices, and we can discuss the ins and outs of this in terms of morality and ethics and the image of racing and all that, but ultimately Star Sports, because it has human traders, was able to kind of take preventative action.
Yeah, and I mean, when obviously we're taking these bets, so I was actually looking at these bets coming through, and we have a ticker where all the bets do come through, and when we're seeing them come through, and it's down to us to kind of spot these bets coming through and spot a pattern. When you're looking at a huge firm, so your 365s or somewhere like that, I mean, the volume of bets that they would say will be absolutely huge. Hopefully for them, it should still stand out, and they should still be able to see the pattern there. But purely just us being able to see this pattern and the spot early really saved us, because like you say, we could have been looking at £500,000 in about 5 bets, and it just would have been absolutely catastrophic. I mean, obviously the last one got beat, but still, if you're having Trixies and Patients, the first 2 won at big prices, so we could have been in a really bad space. But what it did allow us to do, and Ben was really keen on doing this, Ben Keefe, obviously the owner of Star, was actually really keen to lay them. So we were looking to for people to hedge with us, these bookies that had got themselves in this position with the overnight bets. We then wanted to lay these horses when they were at much shorter prices. So we were 6-5 about the last 2, when every single firm was 4-7, 8-15. The machine on Betfair was about 2.3, and we were 6-5, 5-4. We were really trying to lay them.
Why?
We thought that they were false prices. Well, because they've purely shortened up, and bookmakers will be shortening them up to get a shorter SP, so that when they have offered SP bets, they'll be laying a short price down a bigger price. So that's why you have the differential between Betfair and then the SP prices. So we wanted to lay them at that prices. I mean, whenever you get like a Frankie 7 or a Frankie multiple building up, and the horses start coming in from 5s into 4s into 3s into 2s into 6-4, I'd love to lay that 6-4, because I want to lay bottom price. That's a false price. It's only shortening because Frankie's riding winners. These horses are only shortening because the last one had won. It's not necessarily got direct influence on this next horse going off. I know in this case that they're all kind of gambled together supposedly, so you could say that one winning does impact the other, but you always want to lay them short prices, bookmakers, and if you can kind of lay as much as you can, as cheaply as you can, that's kind of Ben's ethos, and that's what we do here.
The three trainers who trained the horses yesterday, I'm only speculating about what happened here, and some were interviewed, some weren't, some wanted to talk, some didn't. That's all well and good, but I've mixed views on this in general, because I think as a trader, you want to lay horses, but like you got to be wary of laying horses from certain yards if things like this happen. Now, at one end of the scale, I admire the ingenuity of the potential of literally pulling off a heist of millions in the space of 3 races that take place over 15 odd minutes or whatever it is. And the fact that you got all these horses from 20s into nearly even money within such a short space of time. And I admire that. And I admire the fact that you can win off the bookmakers. I don't really admire the fact that maybe if you were backing these horses runs previous to yesterday, you probably didn't have a great chance. They were sent off 25-1, and it would have been impossible to predict this improvement in form. And I think what's really interesting going forward is in terms of bookmakers laying multiples overnight or whatever. There was no way in the world of God anyone could have connected these 3 horses. The different owners, the different trainers. If you were to connect these horses, you could connect 3 horses 1,000,000 times throughout every race card, because it was just so tenuous. And I think I was kind of mocked for saying that I think bookmakers will become very wary of multiples going forward if things like this happen. And I was probably a bit strong on it. But when you look at the colossal liabilities that build up very quickly, I think they'll be more on guard, if nothing else.
Well, yeah, and what we saw yesterday when it was kind of all unfolding, the bookmakers didn't really want to hedge with us, and nobody wanted to hedge because they'd laid such big prices, because they'd laid, I don't know, 40, 20 and 12 or something like that. That's way too big for them to go and hedge them, because they're going to be hedging. After the first one won, I mean, the double on the next 2 would have been about 3-1, because it's evens plays evens, it's 3-1. Do you really want to go and hedge out 3-1 when you've laid such huge prices? There's really no point. You might as well just suck it up and have to deal with it. But I do completely agree with you with the overnight prices, and then also the aspects of it, just for the integrity of the game, it's not great in my opinion. Again, I do agree with you that it's great trying to see people trying to land a touch and use everything they can to their ability. But if you're a punter having a bet in the 125 at Musselburgh yesterday, and you've bet someone against it, you've sat down, done the cards, and you found one that you think's going to win, and then this thing shortens in from 22-1 to even money, and you've really got no chance, and you probably won't return. So that'd be the big issue for me there.
It's also funny. Obviously, we looked at Barney Curley gambles and Charles Burns gambles, and it probably had people thinking and imagining that they could do something similar, maybe something like yesterday. When you have people putting on multiple bets effectively at the same time on one betting firm, not StarSports now, but if they're putting on 10 bets at the literally split second between the 10 bets on 10 different accounts, bookmakers are becoming less and less interested in many respects in racing. When they can lay in running, they can lay everything else. You look at some of the really big bookmakers, racing is becoming smaller in terms of the share of the pie. I think we shouldn't take for granted that bookmakers will always want to lay racing, because nobody would want to lay that bet that they were stuck with Saturday night, and you can't blame them.
Oh yeah, of course. And like you just said, at those prices, they can take out such huge amounts for such a small stake. I mean, I saw quite a few things on Twitter of people having 32 quid bets to return 20 grand. That's literally like 5-6 bets away from being half a million quid liability if you're not kind of on the ball when you are trading. So I can easily see how some bookmakers did fall foul of it, and I'm sure that there'll be processes kind of put in place to not let that happen again. But we have seen gambles like this before, when they do go awry, when they're betting them at big prices, and then when the market kind of sorts itself out in the morning, the prices go the other way.
Yeah.
And when I woke up on Sunday morning, I was half expecting to see them all bounce out, but they were actually doing the opposite thing. When that first one was 6-4, it was 2.5 on Betfair, and it was going 2.4, 2.3, 2.1. It kept shortening, and that's very, very rare for these type of gambles. That's when I knew that it was kind of proper. Because a lot of these just go the other way, don't they? So we have kind of seen this before, but I've never seen it with this much kind of emphasis on kind of new accounts opening up, trying to bet them, and the real Irish angle of it as well, in terms of where the accounts were based. So they've obviously tried to have a touch. They've had a bit of a touch because they've had 2 go up, and obviously the last one got beat. But I think it does bring the game into a bit of an integrity issue, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think the BHA obviously is interviewing the trainers, but it needs to do its job properly here because
it needs to be strong, doesn't it? It needs to be.
It needs to be strong. Well, why, Dara Burke's horse in the last, why was that? Why did it go off such a short price? And obviously, he didn't want to talk after the thing to the Racing Post. But obviously, were there any connections to the other horses? Because it's clear as day that the circumstantial evidence suggests that the three horses were heavily backed by people for some reason or other. These three specific horses, and I've sympathy for you as a punter if you back these horses when they were down the field in recent runs. I'm not saying anything apart from the fact that you had a loser that day and probably you didn't stand a great chance. I think that's we don't think of the struggling punter who backed these horses previously. And I know we've gone on a bit here. We probably should be talking more about the Dublin Racing Festival. I had to write a feature for the Dublin Racing Festival yesterday, and I probably wrote 2/3 of the article about what was going on in Musselburgh and Southern, because that's what I wanted to talk about, and I think that's what people wanted to hear. I was talking to you actually on Saturday on the WhatsApp, trying to figure out how the results were going for the firm, because Willie just banged in winners, bang, bang, bang. Pretty much all the shorties were winning. How did you fare over the 2 days?
Yeah, so let's start with the Saturday. So the Dublin Racing Festival is a fantastic weekends of racing. It was just great to see all these great horses out, but not great to see them just all win. It was completely littered with favourites winning the graded races all over the place. The handicaps got us out of trouble a little bit, but plenty of multiples were landed. Starting with the Irish Champion Hurdle, Honeysuckle won pretty well under Rachel Blackmore. A really good ride, kind of just kicked off the turn. It was a bad result for us, and that finished off a lot of people's multiples on Saturday, because that was the kind of end race for all the short ones. Now 9-4 favourite ahead of Epatante for March. I just want to know your thoughts on the mare's allowance, Johnny. What's your thoughts on that going forward? Do you think it will last with these mares kind of going and winning all these races?
I don't know, because I'd prefer mare's allowance than just having more mare's races, and as much as it was a really good mare's race at Fairy House today, and we do have them, but don't put them at Cheltenham. Don't be bringing in more mare's races. I want Honeysuckle to be running the Champion Hurdle. I don't want it to be ideally run against Benny Didiu and avoiding Epatante last year. The mare's allowance, I'm not scientifically there enough to know whether it should be £7, whether it should be £5. I've no real issue with it. I just want the horses to take on each other. I think the fact that you have two mares at the head of the betting for the Champion Hurdle is fantastic. And I would just prefer if Cheltenham got rid of the mare's race, to be honest. The mare's allowance for me is, you can kind of argue the toss. I mean, if you have a really strong mare like I remember Jigginstown had a Yates mare whose name escapes me now, but she won the JLT there for years ago. She's absolutely massive. And her getting a mare's allowance is kind of like giving Ronaldo an extra goal sort of thing. But it's not something that energized me that much. I think the fact that you have mares in these races full stop is to be encouraged, because people latch onto that, the fairer sex winning. And obviously the fact that Rachel Blackmore, I think Rachel gave her a really good ride. I know she was on a horse that basically was in her comfort zone, but she was so positive and confident. And I like the story of this horse that people probably don't latch onto, that Henry de Bromhead says she was pretty run-of-the-mill at home. She was fairly quiet in her stable. And once she started winning races, she turned into an absolute madam. And if you go into her stable now, she'll tell you she's the boss here. And I just love that. She's good and she knows it.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see her at Cheltenham. I mean, her versus Epatante should be great, as long as Epatante's obviously back fully on song, and hopefully Sharjah can put the run behind him that he had yesterday. You'd think that those two would be clear. Just moving on to Emerging Name, so pretty poor result for us in the Irish Arkle. Sets up a mighty clash with Shishkin. I can't wait for that race. These races are really taking shape now, aren't they?
Faster time than Shaq and Poursois.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. I thought he was pretty tripless before he ran, but he seems to just win over any trip he goes over. So he's now 5-2 against Shishkin, who's 4-5. I think they'll probably be closer on the day. The Irish will obviously get involved in him there. Emerging Name seems to have beaten some better horses than Shishkin has over fences as well, which I would just say about his price. You just mentioned Chacun Poursois. He was the one that kind of kicks it all off for favourite backers on Saturday, winning at 2-5. He's now 4-5, solid favourite for the Champion Chase in March, and he just looks pure class, doesn't he? And then moving on to Sunday, the Irish Gold Cup obviously being the feature. It was a bit of a weird race. It was a slow. It seemed like it was a bit of a slow kind of pace with Ken Boy going from the front. But we saw quite a few of these type of races, I thought, at the weekend where they go slow off the front, and they seem to be run a little bit differently over there to when they come over here in March.
It suits Ken Boy it suited him so much that it was a small field, and he's really, really adept at just going out in front and basically maintaining the pace. And I had this race between Manila Indo and Delta Works. I called it completely wrong. I did a fair bit of cash on the race. You were having pizza on Saturday night. I was having a few beers, and I was like, I'll have a good hit at this race. So hit in and ended up basically was on bad prices come the off. and both were beaten. And I thought Manila Indo was disappointed, but wouldn't knock Kenboy interest as well. He could be going for the stairs hurdle rather than the Gold Cup, obviously, because he's a poor record in that race.
Yeah, of course. And Manila Indo was all the rage with us as well, but I think that it might be him. Obviously, it was kind of the first time he stepped up to that real class. Obviously, he did step up before and unseated or fell, didn't he? But that could just be him potentially. Ken Boyd now 10-1 for the Gold Cup, but like you said, stairs hurdle, the likely aim there. Monkfish was pretty breathtaking.
He is breathtaking.
Yeah.
We need all the fish shops in Dublin to be doing a special on monkfish the eve of the Gold Cup or that day, because monkfish, as Ben Keith will no doubt know, is a beautiful, beautiful fish to eat. But this horse is just special. And like, he actually, the way he did it yesterday, dropping back in trip, he's actually improving. And the first day he ran his beginners at Fairyhouse, I was like, this guy's jumping is just off the charts. He's just hurdling them, and it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic, and it was just one of those performances that you can just watch over and over again. And I just can't wait to see him around the Cheltenham fences. It's just going to be a sight to see. Now pretty bomb-proof for March, evens for the festival, not chase, or the RSA as it was previously known. So another hot pot, another Irish hot pot, should I say there. Appreciate it was 4 to 7 in the morning and went off 1-3 and won as such. I think he's the one to take on in March. I think he's the one that we can get.
I think Ballyadam could reverse that form.
Oh, do you think really? Okay.
I do.
I thought that Metier would be the one to take him on. He obviously goes in the Betfair hurdle.
He runs Saturday,
yeah, potentially. He's now about 5-1 poke for that race on Saturday. He's obviously got to step up, but I think the ground could potentially be soft. We've seen it the last couple of years. That suit Metier down to the ground. And obviously Appreciate It was beat last year around Cheltenham. So I think he's the one that we can definitely get beat, and he'll be the one that we'll want to take on in the first race.
You've got it. You have a bit of history on your side here, because the great Flynn Goward was taken on Appreciate It all-ins up in the bumper in March, which obviously seems like about 10 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. I will admit we were probably chasing up a little bit on track because we were well behind in the day and we kind of got out on the last race, but he just happened to be the one that everyone wanted to be on. But he'll certainly be the one we're taking on there. We haven't got him in the book yet for the race. He is 7-4, but I'm sure when it comes today, he'll be well in the book. I'm sure you're pretty happy to see Quilixios go in, another favourite, but Johnny Ward tip early doors.
Yeah, well, I think one of the star lads put me onto this horse ages ago. So the few quid in the Manti post, the great Jordan and I were toasting our IPAs on Sunday night. I didn't think he was overly impressive, actually. I wouldn't be mad at him for the triumph, but he did the job. Happy days. I actually backed the first and second Anti post at 4s and 20s or something. So it rarely works out that well.
You can't be complaining with that. You'd think that the Xanarire probably didn't run just to give Quilixios his day in the sun, potentially.
Possibly, and also I'm not sure about running Xanahir on that ground. You know, even though it wasn't that, but Xanahir is a very pacey horse, and I don't think Quilixios will be quick enough to win the Triumph Earl, to be honest. I think Xanahir and hopefully French Seal, like, it's maybe a little bit worrying he wasn't running, but on that front at Leopardstown he's very exciting. But I'd have it between those two. I wouldn't be having Quilixios. I thought he was, the way he travelled in the race, he looks more of a staying type to me.
Well, Quilixios is actually shorter than French Seal. He's 9-2 for the Triumph Quilixios. So if you wanted to get stuck in there, he's second favourite to Xanahir. I think performance of the weekend went to this bumper horse, Kilcrut. I think I pronounced that right.
Sensational.
Tony Mullins spoke about him a year ago and actually put him up. I think it was on the final furlong.
I did my brains on him first time out. I think it was the last race before lockdown as well.
Yeah, so I mean, he was absolutely breathtaking again. Sorry to use the word breathtaking, but it seems like these performances just keep bringing it out. I did watch the interview with Patrick Mullins after the race, and he spoke about the fact that he thought he picked the wrong horse, turning into the home straight, and then he kind of just said, "Oh, have I got the horse under me?" It turns out he obviously did. They went pretty hard early, and he just seemed to pick them up with. In pretty effortless style, and he's now 6-4 for the champion bumper. He's leapfrogged to Gerhard at the top of the betting, and another match that I can't wait to see come March.
Yeah, I think that might be enough from Leopardstown, but we have it in Sandown as well.
Sandown quick, yeah. Cotswold Chase being a big one there, won by a lovely jumping display from Native River. Punters couldn't really make their mind up on the race. Jarla Enki was the one they wanted to be with, obviously stepping up in class, a real stayer, tried to go from the front and just got completely outclassed, really. I thought Native River was fantastic on the second circuit over the railway fences. Jarla Enki did shorten into 9-2, but yeah, like I say, just completely outclassed. The jury's out with me for Santini. I don't know what to think of him anymore. went up a 5-2 shot. I think Cheltenham will obviously suit a lot better than Sandown did. Those fences were just coming way too quick for him, and it just suited the real bold display from Native River. The one other race to talk from Sandown would probably be Sporting John. That was a really good result for us here at Star, winning the City Isles novice chase. Big return to form from him. It looks pretty impressive, even though he's quite a fragile sort, isn't he? And he's now 12-1 for the marsh. So he looks like he'll be one opposing Envoy Len once we get to Cheltenham time.
Amazing. How we must be, what are we, 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, and we're only just departing race. And I hope you've enjoyed the show so far, because we haven't even gotten to rugby or the NFL yet. Let's go to rugby first, because it did take my attention that Ben Keith was going all out laying England for the Six Nations at was presumably an industry top price, and they were only battered by Scotland. As much as it was a narrow enough margin, Scotland bossed the second half. Finn Russell's kicking was awry, but they still won readily. And Ben Keith knew yet again, even though I doubt he knows that much about rugby, does he?
I will tell you, probably knows absolutely nothing about rugby. He's not really the biggest sports fan, although greyhounds is obviously very, very close to his heart. But in terms of horse racing, he's I don't think you'll mind me saying he's pretty clueless. But when we kind of turn to rugby here, we wanted to get England in the book. Yeah. Can we cut that out? England are the only losers in the book. We were landing at 5-4 and 6-5. We were industry top price. We did want to get them in the book. England getting beat by Scotland was a great result, and like I say, Scotland were just all over them, probably deserved even more. England are now 4-1, so we're very happy with the position as we go into this weekend's games. France are your new favourites at 11-10 there, so that's just a quick spin through of the rugby from the weekend.
Yeah, and all the Shrudies told me to back Ireland, but that plan went out the window pretty much when they were down to 14 men after 10 minutes and nearly pulled it off. You did admit to me that you were staying up for the Super Bowl. I think you got through 3/4 of what was not a classic when I spoke to you this time last week. It didn't really matter whether it was the Bucks or the Chiefs in terms of your anti-post market. Everything's going well. But you did say, come kick off on Sunday, we probably will have a heavy position, and you did.
Yeah, it was a real old turnaround for us. Like you just said, the anti-post bit looked fantastic. When I compare it to last year's, which looked horrific, we had loser and loser. This year we had winner and winner. It was great going into the evening. But when these short prices just started going in the other sports and the mix of sports throughout Sunday, we were seeing these multiples building up towards Kansas City Chiefs, obviously favourites for the Super Bowl to go and win it against the Tappernir Buccaneers. But when we saw teams like Man City winning, Chelsea winning, Barcelona, AC Milan, Monkfish in the race and Appreciate It, Quilixios, when these horses started going in, we were laying really big kind of 6, 7, 8 folds, and we had some really big ones kind of building up. And this was one of the biggest liabilities that I've ever seen here at Star, Kansas City Chiefs, and we really needed the beat.
On the day of one of the biggest liabilities in the treble of all time. You had one of your biggest liabilities that turned out in the American football game.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge, and hence why I stayed up, because I really don't like American football. But the liability we had on it, I wanted to know going into Monday how we were going to be feeling as a firm.
Tom Brady was the toast of the Flynn Goward house.
Yeah, he was indeed, and the punters that bet him in the New Year's market special were 22-1 for the MVP, going into the game 2-1, and he obviously absolutely dotted up there. He was fantastic. Him and Gronkowski kind of linking up after years gone by. So yeah, it was fantastic to see that beat. We had a great weekend, kind of dodging the gamble and being in a really good position with that. And then we kind of got away with the Dublin Racing Festival, and then to find out that we had all this running onto the American football, we had such a good weekend. And then I thought it was all going to come undone with one American football match, but it turns out we have got away with that one as well. So it was certainly our weekend, even though the punters tried to land a touch anyway.
Let's get to golf. There was a bit of action in the Saudi International and the Phoenix Open.
Yeah, there was indeed. So starting with Saudi, Dustin Johnson was a 5-1 favourite there and was a poor result, unsurprisingly. He won with ease, and he just looks like he just goes through the motions and just he's just good all round, really. Bryson was disappointing. Tony Finau got close again, but that's just what Tony Finau does. Dustin Johnson's Harden 6-1 favourite for the Masters in April. Obviously, we've got that first major coming up in April, so we will see some price movements for that now. Moving over to the Phoenix Open, again, a real thrilling event. Brooks Koepka bounced back to form with a 19 under total, winning by one shot. He was a small loser for us and also shortened for the Masters into 12-1. And one other player just to mention is Jordan Spieth, who was getting some fantastic kind of coverage on the tweet machine. He had an incredible third round, which took him to the joint lead at 18 under. He was joint with Xander Schauffele. We saw some money at him 50s for the Masters. He's now 25 poke, obviously won there before and gone really close a few times, really. But him kind of coming back to form, although I'd be quite happy to lay that 25 to 1 because he's very wayward still, and you just seem to put the lights out on Saturday. So real exciting weekend in the golf, and we've got loads to look forward to this week as well.
We do, yeah. You mentioned the big race in Newbury on Saturday. Obviously, Meteor is going to be one of the star attractions. They're a really good car, 2 grade at Chase as well. We have the industry account off to mention before we go, and also the chance to beat the trader in the football.
We do indeed. So starting with Beat the Trader. So we actually had a Beat the Trader for the American football over the weekend, but we've got it back for the Premier League football this week. So Rory and Sam Revel, our football traders, do a Beat the Trader where they predict the correct scores and results for the weekend's football. If you think that you can beat them, if you beat their total score, you get 3 points for a correct score and 1 point for a correct result. If you can beat them, then you'll get a £10 free bet. And if you can beat everyone else in the competition, then you'll get a £200 free bet. So a real good challenge to get involved in there. Obviously free to enter. You need to have an account with us, so open up if you do want to get involved there. And also the industry account offer. So if you're working in the industry, we see a lot of industry accounts not being able to get on. They can't get their bets on, etc. If you have an existing account with us and for whatever reason you can't get your bets on, then do come and speak to us over Trader Chat or phone us. But we'll guarantee to lay you a bet on any main market to win a minimum of £500. That's after 10:15 a.m. on the day of event. Obviously, if the event is before 10:15 a.m., it will be fine. So if you do want to get involved in that offer, and if you can't get your bets on and work anywhere in the industry, in the betting industry, then do come speak to us, Star, and we can help you out.
We got through a lot there, didn't we?
It was a long one this week, but hopefully the listeners are still with us.
For some reason, I'm actually intrigued as to your pizza on Saturday night. Did you eventually get the pizza?
We did get the pizza, although it took me a while to eat it when I was kind of dealing with the whole Musselburgh and Southwell fiasco. It was pretty cold by the time I got to the end of it, but it was nice all the same. That
was Trader Chat. Thank you, Flynn.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Can't promise you it will be as eventful, but talk to you then.